Hi, in this video we're going to be discussing vocabulary skills of using context clues as well as using online dictionaries. So kind of combining those two skills to get more understanding and more information about a word, okay? Ultimately, both of these can help you to do the mental work of trying to understand the word, and it's going to help lodge it in your brain better, so you're actually going to remember the word. That's the important thing. So we're going to use this example from our book Holes, right? And this is on page 3. And I'm going to look at the word hovers, but I have the whole sentence because that's very important for the context. So even if I'm going to look the word up in the dictionary, I need to understand how the word is used in the sentence. The context is so important because many words, most words, can have a slightly different meaning or sometimes a very, very different meaning depending on how they're used in a sentence, okay? So here the sentence says, during the summer, the daytime temperature hovers around 95 degrees in the shade, if you can find any shade. There's not much shade in a big dry lake, and that's from page 3 in Holes. So when I first see this word hovers, you might think about your background knowledge, and I'm thinking of a hovercraft. And thinking about that, if you know a hovercraft, it kind of is something that can float above the air, right, or above the ground in the air. That helps me, but when I look at this sentence, that's not exactly what the sentence is talking about, right? So it says the daytime temperature is this thing hovering. So a temperature can't really float in the air. So that, what I'm thinking about with a hovercraft isn't exactly right. It says it hovers around 95 degrees in the shade. These are all clues. And it says there's not much shade in a big dry lake. So it's definitely talking about the temperature. And from the context, I can start to understand that the temperature is pretty hot, right? But then thinking about hovers, what are we talking about here? We're not talking about a ship floating, right? But if I can kind of see in my mind from this picture, I'm thinking I see a thermometer, right? And I'm starting to see, the temperature on like an old type of thermometer, and it's kind of right around that 95-degree mark, right? So this is what I'm seeing in my mind, right? This type of thermometer, and the mercury can kind of move a little bit, right? Okay, so I can make a pretty good guess based on the context clues, looking at the sentence, trying to see it in my mind, trying to connect it to what I already know. Those are all good strategies. But if I want to confirm or if I'm still a little bit unsure, then I would go to the dictionary. Now your first reaction might be go to Google and say hover definition, right? Or what does hover mean? You might write even in, right? And when I look that up, I can get some good information, right? I can listen to it, which is really helpful. And if you look, here's the phonetic pronunciation, and you see that little line there is telling you where the stress is in the word so that you can pronounce it correctly, right? So I know it's hover with the stress on the first syllable, not hover, right? I say hover. Okay, and you can listen to it, and understanding where the stress is really important. Let me kind of move me a little bit. So I can see that it's a verb. It says remain in one place in the air, but that doesn't really fit with my context, right? So if I go back and look at this, it's kind of related, but let's see if I can find something a little bit better. So here's a dictionary I like, the free dictionary. Let's look it up in there. And you have to make sure you spell it right, okay? And here now, I get some more definitions. And I can start to look at these and say, okay, this one says it's on computers. My sentence is not connected to how it would be used on computers. So that's probably not going to be the right one. But if I look at the others, to remain floating, and it says gulls hovering over the waves. Not quite. That's my mind. I was thinking of the hovercraft. To remain or linger in or near a place. That's a little bit closer to what I'm thinking about. Now, the example says hovering around the speaker's podium. That's a more literal meaning of, like, when you have, you're in a place and you kind of are hovering around that place, being near that place. But I think that that connects a little bit better here, because if I think about that thermometer, then it's saying it's near the 95-degree mark on the thermometer, okay? So that helps me a little bit more. And then I can see it's a verb, it's an intransitive verb, meaning it doesn't need to have an object. That's really helpful to understand how to use the word myself in a sentence, right? And then down here I can also see it can be a noun, right? Okay, and I can see it can also be a noun like this. Hoverer must be a person if I add that ER ending. Hoveringly, adverb, okay. And there's more information down here. Okay, zoology, I don't think, I'm talking about it says especially hawks. Nope. Computer science, nope. So I'm thinking about how it's used in my context, but this is helpful to get more information. Okay, so there's a lot more information you can see in this dictionary than I just got in a quick Google search, right? That can be quick, but if you want to get more information and more understanding, if you go into a more complete dictionary, that will help you a lot. Now also I found this site is really helpful because look down here, it can tell you how to change the verb for the different tenses. So since it's a verb, let's say I'm not really sure, how do I make it into past perfect? I had hovered, you had hovered, right? How do I make it into present? Okay, oh, she hovers, right? So that's really helpful too, so that I know how to use it in a sentence, because that's going to help me to actually learn the word. Okay. You can see down here some thesaurus and similar. There's a lot more explanation. So that one can be helpful. Also, Merriam-Webster, if I put that one in. Again, I can get a lot of helpful information as I look here, right? To remain suspended, to move to and fro near a place, fluctuate around a given point. That really works with our sentence, right? Okay, of the temperature is fluctuating, right? So moving just a little bit. So it's right around 95, maybe 93, maybe 94, maybe 96, maybe 97, but right around. That definition really fits my context. So now I really understand what that means, okay? And I can look at the examples to get more information, okay? So down here too, the other thing that is very, very helpful is looking at it in a sentence, okay? Watch as the hummingbird hovers over the flowers. Bees hovered around the hive. Now I can see a picture in my mind. I can see how it's used in the sentence. This is one of the best ways to really learn the word, is to look at more sentences. And even though this is a little different than the way that it's used in our context, now I'm adding to my understanding. I'm getting more information about the word. And if I spend all this time on each word, yes, this takes time, but I bet you're going to remember the word hovers. You're never going to forget what that word means because we just spent 10 minutes talking about it. So if you take 10 minutes, really in depth looking up a word, really kind of researching it, looking at all this, now it's in my brain, right? If I just do a quick Google search, look it up, okay, I kind of got it, go back, right? It's going to be gone, okay? So this is how you really learn and get it stuck in your brain so that you actually remember it. Now remember, if you're in the middle of reading, you want to try to use the context clues. As we saw, just from the sentence, I could start to make a pretty smart guess. And if I was in the middle of reading this, I don't think I would stop and take 10 minutes to, look up the word. I would do that later. Maybe I would put a little mark and tell myself after I finish the chapter, then I'm going to go back and spend that time to look up the word more in detail, right? But I don't want to do that while I'm reading, because now, after all this time, I don't even remember what I was reading about, right? So it would make more sense finish the chapter and then go back and say, okay, now there's a couple words I want to look up. And not too many, because then again, you're overwhelming your brain. So just pick a couple that you think would be helpful to understand, or you think is really important to understand the story, right? That's going to help you to get more information. And this is how, you learn vocabulary much better, okay? Okay, I hope that this helps you, and now practice it, okay? So practice these strategies to really boost your vocabulary.